Hey, hi, hello, I'm Super Dude, and perhaps you've noticed that the video game industry has majorly shifted in the past couple months. I mean, it's been on fire for years, but it seems a dam has broken in the AAA space. Again. We finally got a genuine announcement for the Nintendo Switch 2 that wasn't just, no, we're not gonna talk about it. And all told, I thought it was a pretty good conference. I love Mario Kart, and I'm one of those weirdos who actually liked the last 3D Donkey Kong, so Bonanza was gonna be my bag. And I thought Drag and Drive just looked awesome. Those controls made me laugh when I saw them. I bet that'll be a lot of fun to play. But then the prices were revealed, and I discovered I didn't like Mario Kart as much as I thought I did. A lot of hay has been made over this $80 price tag because it's another huge paradigm shift. It's only been a few years since AAA games jumped from $60 to $70. A quick search says the first game that set that standard was in 2020, and I'm honestly still not used to that price myself. For as long as I've had memories, games have cost $60. A lot of my financial decisions as a child were thought of in terms of that number. $20 is 1/3 a video game, $60 is the happy number, and anything more than that is officially in expensive territory. So even though it's a marginal difference logically, $70 is a big psychological hurdle. But with this jump to $80, we're even further into the expensive zone, and Microsoft decided to follow suit by announcing a similar jump in cost. Quickly, one of the largest hardware manufacturers in gaming, and also Microsoft, signaled to the other developers that the squeeze is about to begin. And I wish I could say I didn't see this coming. The video game industry, like most entertainment industries, is struggling right now. The COVID bubble gave the industry a welcome boost and encouraged loads of growth. But that bubble has popped, the economy is deeply uncertain and dying because of a myriad of factors, but my government is actively making worse. Nobody's investing, and production studios are shuttering left and right as the people in charge wonder where the growth went. They wonder because they think only in terms of that growth, not logic. COVID was pretty awesome for industry growth, but unsustainable. Eventually, we would go outside again. And people outside translates to less people on couches, less consoles, less games, and therefore less money. Depending on the data you're looking at, video games, as a medium, have plateaued. Whether it's a real plateau or just a return to normalcy after the artificial bump of COVID times, we can't know until more time has passed. Unfortunately, we all live in the present, but for now, it's being treated as a plateau. No new gamers. We've hit the peak. So if you're a big games executive, you now have a choice. Our replacement rate on gamers has effectively stopped. Companies want growth, but they're not going to find it naturally, not by bringing new people to the table, at least in the executive's mind. So to increase profits anyway, they have to increase the amount of money drawn in per player. Now, this isn't remotely new. Subscriptions, collector's editions, DLCs, microtransactions, both cosmetic and pay to win, loot boxes, battle passes, individual character purchases, remakes and remasters, all ways to draw more cash from a person. But never before have we changed the price tag because of that aforementioned psychological hurdle. Until recently, that is. The largest companies in hardware are moving to adjusted pricing. Their biggest, baddest games also get the biggest, baddest price tags. And we'll likely see these prices go even further. Adjusted for inflation, a $60 cartridge in the Nintendo 64 days would cost this much today. So until you see this number, they could technically justify the hike. I mean, it wouldn't be justified at all. Income hasn't kept up with inflation, so we'll all have less of our own money, and all of these alternative revenue streams exist now when they didn't then, so they're already pulling more money per customer. But still, I'm willing to bet GTA 6 won't be a dime below $100. And if you disagree, feel free to leave a comment. It only helps my engagement. As games go back to the luxury pricing of yore, lots of people are crying foul or simply crying at what we're about to lose. New experiences, new players getting into the medium for the first time, the understanding that consoles are supposed to be a cheap alternative to PCs, but don't fall victim to the hype. The best games are rarely $80. There are plenty of excellent games that have come out over the last 2 years that are some of my favorite experiences, some big, some small, with some considered the best releases of their moment, and not one of them is above $50. This is a collection of disparate games that I love, games I recommend, games the whole world recommends, and none of them will break your bank. Hopefully you'll find something to enjoy this list, but I also hope it will well demonstrate the extreme breadth of the gaming industry. AAA games may lose track of who their allies are, but you can have hundreds of hours of fun across multiple games without ever touching a AAA title. These headlines, they only represent the top 10 to 15% of games. Don't forget about the AA and indie spaces, where great innovation and, yes, cheaper experiences may yet wow you. To begin, let's go with a game that I'd obviously love. What if you mixed Hollow Knight with a generous helping of Sekiro? Nine Souls is an action platformer made by Red Candle Games that features quick and responsive combat in an Asian-inspired science fantasy setting, which the developer calls Tau Punk. It feels very closely associated with Hollow Knight in my mind, due to the similar character perspective and heavy focus on awesome artwork and platforming and combat, though Nine Souls leans much further into its combat. Parry systems are built into both games, but in Hollow Knight, it doesn't have a gameplay benefit outside of, congratulations, you avoided damage you definitely would have taken otherwise. Helpful, but more an added bonus than something to base your combat style around. Nine Souls is completely invested in its parry system by contrast. Much like Sekiro, you simply won't win if you don't learn to parry, as your strongest attack, the Talisman, can only be used after gaining charges from parrying. This leads to, again like Sekiro, a deeply engaging combat loop where the better you play, the flashier the game looks, rewarding your practice by making you look dope as hell. I have called Nine Souls a Metroidvania in the past, and some people poo-pooed my saying that, and I can see why in hindsight. The game features some backtracking and ability upgrades, but there are truly only a handful of instances of this design in-game. Most areas are fully explorable from your first visit. This is a much more linear game, which is likely due to its story. Nine Souls has a beautifully told and engaging narrative, which is delivered standardly, compared to the lore-dense, almost folklore-like worlds of Dark Souls or the Bug Metroidvania, though Nine Souls does have its fair share of lore. While you won't find the same level of explorative freedom you'd see in those other titles, I can't think of any other 2D action platformer that made me cry like Nine Souls did. The story of this game is exceptional, and it's well worth the experience, if you have the chops to play it. A consequence of parrying being a core pillar of the combat means this is a deeply difficult game, but I think it's well worth the climb, and it only costs $30 on all platforms. If you find it too hard to play on your own, I still recommend giving it a watch on a Let's Play or something, because the story is truly one to see, and it's a primary draw of the game alongside the combat. Come for the fights, stay for Shuwan Shuwang, the best boy there ever was. From a game with rhythmic parrying to a true blue rhythm game, Rift of the Necrodancer is a long-awaited sequel to Crypt of the Necrodancer that controls nothing like the original, but instead finds a new way to represent the design of that original game. In Crypt of the Necrodancer, each move in the dungeon must be performed to the beat of the music, and each monster has a sequence you must perform to take them out. For an easy example, shield skeletons can be hit once, then you must immediately move away from them as they're primed to hit you after dropping their shield. Then you move in and take them out. This is all assuming that you're using a dagger, by the way. There are a lot of variations on this. Each enemy has a sequence like this, and the difficulty of Crypt lies in chaining these sequences together improvisationally, with multiple enemies around in a small area under a brutal time clock. Rift of the Necrodancer takes that same idea of enemy defeat patterns and maps these monsters onto rhythm games. Now, instead of seeing arrows that you tap to the beat, you see monsters, and you must grok how to defeat this particular creature quickly to maintain your combo. Armadillos are triplets of varying types, slimes have to be killed as quarter notes, bats are also quarter notes, but they'll move between lanes every hit. Each enemy is different, and serves as a layer of abstraction from the generic rhythm game design, where the arrows you see are the arrows you press. Just a smidgen harder than normal, but it changes the gameplay wildly. This makes Rift of the Necrodancer a lot harder on first blush. Now it's not as simple as pressing what you see. You need to think about what this monster means and what to press as they come down the lane. Most rhythm games are about solid execution and honing your reaction times, and Rift has all the same bells and whistles, but sight reading in Rift is much harder than other rhythm games I've played, though I'm not the authority on that or anything. In fact, me showing Friday Night Funkin' in this video is disqualifying for some rhythm fans, so take what I think with a grain of salt. I personally think Rift of the Necrodancer's twist on the rhythm game genre, with Necrodancer aesthetics and a similar design goal to the original game, makes this a really curious game to play, and I love my time with it. And if that's not enough for you, Rift also has a story mode with even more abstracted rhythm games for you to practice with, as well as both paid and free DLCs featuring other video games with banging soundtracks, to say nothing of the custom charts people make, which are also free, so I recommend jumping in there and giving it a try. In terms of rhythm games on the market, this is a unique one, and it's pretty cheap and available on PC and Switch for $20, along with multiple bundles for the DLC song packs, or a 2-for-1 deal where you can get Rift and a guest game whose songs feature in the DLCs. And speaking of those guest games, I know I said I'd talk about games from the last 2 years, but Pizza Tower is a game I think more people should see, even if I'm not sure how to describe how awesome it is. How should I put this? As a console kid, I've been playing platformers since I was in diapers, so I'm deeply familiar with the genre and its comforts, but I honestly think I'm too close to the subject material to tell you what makes a good platformer. Perhaps this is a hot take, but I think what makes a good platformer is deeply subjective. Like, we all know what bad platforming feels like, but good platforming varies from person to person, and finding the perfect balance is difficult to pull off. Sonic's an excellent example of this. Nearly all iterations of Sonic, 2D and 3D, have their haters, people who think the games are too fast, too focused on level memorization. And yet, there are plenty of games that are directly influenced by Sonic, or games that aren't influenced by the blue blur per se, but do subscribe to the same fast freak gameplay Sonic champions. Which, by the way, I've heard a lot of good things about this game. It's called Haste, $20 on Steam. You should try it. I haven't yet, but I've heard a lot of great things. All that to say, I can't tell you why I like Pizza Tower or what makes it great, but I do, and it is. Fast-paced, frenetic gameplay, a very Cartoon Network style of art and humor, gameplay that doesn't feel punishing when you make mistakes like Sonic can be, and most importantly, a soundtrack that I can't help but love. The OST is deeply tongue-in-cheek, music so eclectic and experimental that it seems offensive to the ears, but it's actually perfect. Sonic and Splatoon soundtracks have similar qualities to me, a sort of controlled chaos that I find exciting and calming at the same time. Music made for autistic people, maybe? I have it on vinyl, and I play it when I'm alone because my partner would spontaneously combust if forced to listen to this for hours. It's a brilliantly designed speed platformer, and I wish I could tell you what makes it good, but it's the full package. The speed, the sound, and undeniably the greasy look to it speaks to my autistic soul. Pizza Tower is $20 on Switch and PC, and that amazing soundtrack is a mere $10, and the vinyl is actually purchasable for $40 if you want it. But Pizza Tower is so old, it doesn't even follow the rules I originally laid out in the video. It's the one exception, do forgive me for the indulgence. Let's pick something fresh, exciting, and above all, current. Blueprints is a puzzle roguelike that's taken the world by storm, and is the debut title for Dogubum. I'm sure they're all elated and or filled with anxiety over the game's massive success. Blueprints is very singular in its design. I don't really know of any other game like it. It's almost easier to describe BP in terms of board games than video ones. The closest comparison to Blueprints, in my opinion anyway, is Betrayal at the House on the Hill, a board game where you explore a spooky mansion with your mates, slowly revealing the layout as you move from room to room. However, unlike your average game of Clue, the board isn't set in stone. You place down tiles as you travel, which slowly reveal the mansion for this game, ensuring no two games of Betrayal, no two mansions, are the same. Blueprints has that same mechanical concept, but in a single-player puzzle game. You walk up to a door and pick your choice of rooms, traversing the mansion and learning lore, solving puzzles, and hopefully writing down the myriad hints you'll find as you manage your resources, jewels, coins, keys, and your stamina. Exploring roguelike mansions is tiring work, I suppose. The reason you're exploring this mystery manor is because it is your birthright. The mansion's been left to you by what I assume was a particularly eccentric grandfather, but you can only claim your inheritance if you find your way to room 46. A task easier said than done, because it's all too easy to create a mansion layout that traps you. You don't want to create too many dead ends. And of course, the puzzles. This game is absolutely a knowledge-based game, complete with knowledge-based unlocks, or KBUs as I put it in my first video, but more in the Tunic vein than the Outer Wilds one. Without spoiling things, there are puzzles you won't recognize are puzzles until you gain more information. Puzzles upon puzzles that, not unlike Animal Well, encourage truly deep levels of puzzle appreciation, if that's your kink. And thanks to the roguelike design, you can never be sure what variations of which puzzles you'll find on your next run, which can be pretty exciting when you finally produce the mansion layout necessary to make solid progress. However, this strength can also be a terrible weakness. A randomized mansion layout means a randomized set of clues, hints to puzzles you don't have access to, keys found with no locks to put them in. If the room you're looking for refuses to spawn, then that's it. Go to the next day and hope you find it this time. It's a natural consequence of the game's design, and one that, depending on the type of player you are, can be anywhere from a little annoying to outright disqualifying. That's why this game is so debated in critic spaces. Blueprints is a game you love or love to hate, with little in between. But I don't know of any other game that goes about their puzzles in this way. And some may argue there's a good reason for that, but you can't deny that Dogubum took a swing with this one, and it seems to be loved more than loathed, so good for them. I recommend you give this game a watch before buying it to see if it's your bag, and keep a close eye on your Steam timer so you're still within refund range, because this game is a really niche and interesting puzzler, and as a result, definitely won't be for everyone. But it may just be the Rubik's Cube you've been looking for, and it's reasonably cheap at $30 and is available on most platforms, though given what this game is, I'd be very surprised if it didn't come to the Switch eventually. Oh, and get a notebook for this one. you're gonna want to write things down. Now, I hear some of you out there shouting, Super Dude, what is this? People aren't talking about blueprints anymore. That was so last month. Tell us about the freshest new releases. Stuff hot off the presses, so hot that everyone's raving over it. A game so good it is, as of writing, the highest rated game on Metacritic ever made. The beautiful, the engrossing, the overall non-stop fun of Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Sometimes you turn on a game and something about it feels different. Have you ever watched, played, or listened to some art that, within seconds, you could just tell it was good? Really good. It's a rare feeling, but Clair Obscur absolutely put me in that headspace. The opener is rock solid, dropping you into a fantastical steampunk setting that doesn't bother explaining a lick of what's going on to you. And why should it? All of these people have lived in this world for decades. They all know what's going on. They know the stakes. The game engages the player by giving you bits and pieces, words like gommage, paintress, and neverins, proper nouns to pique your interest, but not too many as to overwhelm you, just enough to get you asking rhetorical questions. Then, the reveal, that does a beautiful job bringing to crystal focus the stakes of your mission. In a single second, it demonstrates just why the expeditions are so important and how much devastation and loss has been felt by these characters in this town. It's a brilliant stroke of writing. I'm not showing the moment because I don't want to spoil it for you, but I felt genuine horror when I realized what terrible curse this world has suffered and what Gustav, your main guy, is about to freshly experience before the game truly begins. And the gameplay? Dude. Okay, how do I explain this? So, I was listening to Remap Radio, a game news podcast that I love, and they were discussing the combat of Clair Obscur, describing it as sort of turn-based. During your turn, you select your moves in the turn-based format, but the enemy attacks you in real time. During their attacks, you can negate damage by dodging the move, or, if you're bold and with the proper timing, parry the move to return the damage. They describe this in terms of Sekiro, and I've seen other reviews do the same, and guys, we gotta pull back from the FromSoft talk. Calling something the Dark Souls of X is an easy shorthand to describe difficulty, and everybody does it. It gets the clicks, and I'm not free of sin either. Didn't I describe Nine Souls as Sekiro Hollow Knight in this very video? The developers of the game, Sandfall Interactive, have also cited From Software as an inspiration for the game, so maybe the comparison is even warranted, but that's not what I heard. When I heard Patrick Klepek and Janet Garcia describe the parry mechanics and timed button presses for attack and defense, I wasn't brought back to Sekiro, but to my childhood. This game, guys, it's Paper Mario. Super Mario RPG, and both of its spiritual successor series, Paper Mario and Mario & Luigi, feature this style of combat. Attacking and defending involved time button presses to improve the effectiveness of your attack and defense, which leads to a more involved form of turn-based combat compared to your typical JRPG. Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door was the first RPG I ever played, and it's always meant a lot to me and remains one of my favorite games of all time. So while they're yammering on and on about the mechanics, parry this, Sekiro that, I realized what they were really saying, and I bought the game immediately. And guys, that's exactly what this game is. Imagine a French JRPG with loads of Persona energy in the UI and enemy design, but again, undeniably French. Make no mistake, this game's French as fuck. But this combat, it's like I finally returned home. It has the base combat of the other Mario RPGs. Press the buttons for increased damage, or dodge, or, if you really think you got the timing down, parry it. The base structure is all here, but with added complexity to make it greater than just a repeat of the classics. Each character has their own set of unique mechanics you're juggling. A charge system for Gustav, an elemental stain system where attacks use up some elements for bonus effects, adding and removing stains constantly to augment your magics, a stance fighter that changes their offensive and defensive attributes literally every turn with the ability to deal insane amounts of single target damage if you set her up right. There's so much complexity in just the singular character designs, but nobody fights alone. So you'll have to juggle all of these discrete systems at the same time as you go from engagement to engagement. It feels so good to control that I often end combat hooting and hollering at the pure fun I'm having. That's not a joke. There was a boss fight that I did like 3 days ago, and I just was like, yeah! Like, it's really fun. In the middle of 2024, when I played the Thousand Year Door remake on the Switch, a small part of me wished I hadn't done that. Because sure, I love this game. I will never not love this game. But experiencing it as an adult made its flaws a bit more obvious to me, to say nothing of how easy it is. I was purely taking a trip down memory lane, remembering the story fondly, but wanting more from the system mechanics. I wasn't a kid anymore, so Paper Mario couldn't hit me in the heart like it did when I was 7. You can't ever truly return home. However, at 27 years old, a game would come out that took all of those core features from that beloved childhood classic of mine, and many others, and gave it further complexity, further depth, creating a masterwork in tactical JRPG turn-based combat with a Mario twist. What I needed wasn't a reconstituted, high-definition version of an old favorite. I needed something new. Familiar, but new, and I would go so far as to say leagues better than that old favorite. I often thought about why, after I played the Thousand Year Door remake, I didn't have much to say on the subject, and now I know why. This is my Ratatouille moment. Playing Clair Obscur has reminded me of why I love those old games, more so than going back and experiencing them firsthand. Yes, this reminds me of those beloved classics, but that's not to say that Clair Obscur is just a throwback. It's exciting, emotional, pure fun, and at times funny, and above all, nothing short of a dynamite RPG. And you know what else? It's like 30 or 40 hours long. You know how many great RPGs I've stopped playing because they're 80 to 150 hours? 30 hours for a JRPG is a veritable stroll in the park compared to Persona, and I personally consider that a plus as well. And truly, I could keep going. We could talk about the design of the world, which is gorgeous and based on the, sorry if I mess up this pronunciation, Belle Epoque period of French history. The music, the story, the fact that the cutscenes use letterboxing and aspect ratio as a storytelling device. I was genuinely wowed when this happened. It's brimming with creativity, and it has very few flaws, though it does have them. The platforming's a little weird, guys. I don't know why you put platforming in this. All of this praise in a $50 package on everything that isn't a Switch. What's not to love? So there's my collection of recommendations, but this is by no means comprehensive, nor even a particularly good list. A lot of these games are well known, well talked about, or are currently having a moment where most people in the critic space are talking about them. So why do I bother bringing them up? Why does this video exist? Because each of these games, brimming with innovation and style, are AA and indie games that aren't even close to the new $80 price maximum. Think about that. The biggest games of this moment, some of the best and well-known games of the previous year, aren't even $60. Experiencing the best has never meant spending all of your money on the big names in the industry, especially since a lot of the largest publishers release games that rhyme with each other, or use their name and prestige to charge their customers more, because what else are you gonna do? We're Nintendo. Of course we're gonna charge you $70 for that new Zelda game. We know you want that sweet, sweet Zelda. You're gonna buy it, aren't you, idiot? Well, for every Zelda, there's an Okami, Plucky Squire, or Sable. Different types of Zelda alikes for different eras of Zelda. You will find games that mirror your favorites, but try new things and go in different directions, as Sandfall has with Clair Obscur. But there is another reason for this relatively pop-oriented list of games. These titles, the breakout hits that most people recognize, these are the indie hits most likely to end up on consoles, where the most damage will be felt from this price hike. I'm a converted console player, so we gotta understand that PC people come from a place of privilege. PC is the home of indie, and there will always be more titles to check out, but console players? They're stuck with what they got. And for that, I hope this helps demonstrate that yes, even for you console folks, there are cheaper games that are well known and well loved that won't break your bank. I know this will hurt a lot more for you folks than me, so I'm sorry about that. I hope this video proves helpful. And another thing that's important to remember, for every indie game everyone's talking about, there are 5 equally deserving indie titles that nobody will see. Games that simply don't catch their wave and don't get the audience they deserve, because luck is, unfortunately, a huge part of success. So if you want to avoid AAA's greediness, it's a good idea to look into the weird games out there. Try and surface some smaller titles to more people, so great games get at least some of the recognition they truly deserve. In this vein, I will recommend Arco, a Mesoamerican RPG that's pretty good, but I suck at, and Going Under, action roguelike from a while back that I always loved, but it unfortunately didn't sell well. Though the studio survived that loss long enough to make another Crab's Treasure, so that lack of success didn't tank the studio, thankfully. I wonder if that would have been true if they made the game recently. And lastly, 1000 Times Resist, a game you will hear me talk more about very soon. This problem is an issue of discoverability. More and more games come out every day, and finding great works used to be the role of video game journalism, but that's not a great field to work in right now either, so discoverability has fallen to smaller, crowd-funded publications. And yes, YouTubers. That's basically what I'm trying to do here. Give voice to games that I love and try to show to y'all what there is to love about them. but discoverability remains a huge issue for everyone, and there are various outlets attempting to solve that, but that's a topic that could be a whole video on its own, and it will be. I would like to look up a bunch of different places and people and videos and YouTubers who are all trying to solve this discoverability problem and give it to you in one whole package, so look forward to that later. But for now, I hope that this pretty pop list of indie and AA titles has been useful in assuaging some of the anxieties around the industry. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot to have anxiety about right now, and the direction of the industry, whether it starts excluding certain customers or becomes an even more hostile place for developers, is certainly among those worries. But I'm certain that we've reached a point where video games, as a medium, can't go away. As I've said previously, AAA studios and hardware manufacturers may drive up their prices, returning games to the luxury product it was in the 90s and abandoning player bases, but that's not the entire industry. There are plenty of games that are reasonably priced that are still within reach, and also some of the best games around. Price does not equate to quality. Some of the best games are also a steal, so you should get them while the getting's good. And you may not have a machine that can run all of these games. Clair Obscur is really demanding on a GPU, but if we go back a bit, games like Pizza Tower or Balatro can run on nearly everything. Balatro's literally on the phone. Don't let the AAA space define what games are for you. If you look just a little deeper, you'll often find something people are super excited about. And if you go deeper still, you may find a game that needs your help to be seen. Indie games often survive by word of mouth, so if you find something you love, you should shout it out. Go deeper, find what you love, and tell others you love it. It'll mean more to those developers that you said something than it would on Nintendo's balance sheet. And that's the video. Thank you for watching. If you liked it, please leave a like or a comment or a subscribe even. They really are helpful, so if you enjoyed, feel free to kick a little my way in the form of interaction. And if you liked it a lot, you can even be a patron if you so choose. Patrons give me a little bit of money every month so that I can kick it back into the process. I am just a single month away from saving for that Shoda mic, so I will be buying it next month. And then after that, I'm not really sure what I'm saving up for. Honestly, I haven't thought about it because I've been saving for the Shoda for so long. Anyway, I got another video that I already have like ready to go. It just needs to be edited, so I hope to see you guys soon. See you then. I am Super Dude. Thank you, love you, bye.